You guys have been asking me a ton about how much money it would cost to build a GLI exactly the way I did, and how much money I have spent on the car. So today, I'm gonna break it down for y'all. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Like I said, today we're going to be going over pretty much the entire price list of the mods on my GLI and just sharing everything with you guys. Now, I do want to make it clear that some of the mods on this car are sponsored and were discounted, but I'm not going to exactly say how much they were discounted just out of respect for the companies that I've worked with and have chosen to support the build. All of the prices I'm going to be giving you guys of the parts on this car are going to be based off of MSRP. That's not to say you can't buy some of these parts used, buy them on sale, or even get discounts and sponsorships to save yourself some money when you're building a car like this. I also want to make it clear too that a lot of these parts I bought before there were tariffs in place, and so a lot of the things on here have gone up in price compared to when I was building this car. Oh my god, it's raining acorns. The first thing we're going to start off with is the wheels and tires on the car, which are my 18 by 8.5 plus 35 Rotiform DTMs wrapped in 255, 35, 18 Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 tires. The wheels are listed for $1,371. Tires are about $800, meaning the total for my wheel and tire setup, not including alignment, balancing, mounting, all that stuff, is $2,171. I will say I did not actually spend that much money on this setup because I did buy the wheels from a vendor on Marketplace for about $1,100, and I spent $350, I believe, on the tires through Tire Rack because they were on a closeout deal. So I feel like all in all, we actually did pretty decent on this wheel and tire setup without spending a ton of money. Next, let's talk about the cosmetics on the car. We do have a CJM front splitter, which is $300, CJM side skirts, which are $240, and if you guys just saw my recent video, we just installed the CJM diffuser, and this one is $200. I do want to give a huge thanks to CJM for working with me on this, because if it wasn't for him, I would not have been able to get this whole body kit on the car, and to be frank, it looks fucking sick. So if you guys are interested in some of those parts, go use my link down below. You can get 15% off on anything that I have on my car that is from CJM. Continuing with cosmetics, obviously we have the Alptec clear taillights on the car, and these are the ones with the black housing, so they are a little bit more, but these are $695 shipped with the harness. And of course, I do have a code down below for $20 off, John20, if you guys want to get some for yourself. I know these are kind of expensive, but there are really no options for aftermarket taillights on this car unless you get the OEM Sagittar taillights from China. And those do require a lot of coating along with a custom harness, and it's just a lot of work. And to be honest, I wanted clears, so this is really the only option I have. But all in all, they turned out really, really good, and I feel like this really completed the whole color scheme of being black, silver, and chrome on the car, so I have no regrets. The next three things on the cosmetic side are all kind of just off-brand, knockoff stuff. I got these sequential turn signals on Amazon for $20, but now they are about $30. The mirror caps are from Alibaba and they are $50, but I can no longer find the link for those. And same with the spoiler. I spent about 50 bucks on this spoiler, but again, there's no link for it, so I'm just kind of using that for those three items as the pricing outline. Though, like I said, the turn signals are still available for $30 on Amazon. Obviously, this car has a ton of custom badging and vinyl on it. Pretty much all of this came from Swan Vinyl Works, and I did have silver here previously, but I ended up removing it to go back to chrome. And to be honest, all of this stuff, when I priced it out, was $92 on the website. However, I believe I actually paid more for it, though I don't remember how much, and that was close to 2 years ago. The vents here in the front, I paid 50 bucks to get these wrapped by a friend of mine, and she did a great job. But those are kind of hard to get a template for, though I do know that's something that Swan is working on, so we'll just kind of have to see if that's something that actually comes to fruition in the future. The last cosmetic thing I have on this car is actually in the interior. Well, there's actually two things in the interior here, but one of them is these DSG paddle shifters that I got from DSG Paddles back when I first bought the cars. Actually, I think the first mod I did, and these were 60 bucks, and they're still 60 bucks from the looks of it. I also did do the LED light conversion on the inside here, and I think that was all like 20 bucks from ECS Tuning, so not too bad. That brings our total of the cosmetics on the car to $1,717. But that pretty much covers all of the cosmetic stuff, aside from obviously the coilovers, which we'll get into when we get talking about the suspension. The next thing though I do want to talk about is the brake setup on the car. I do have rear brakes upgraded and front brakes upgraded. So starting off with the rear, I'm running EBC rotors with Z26 power stop pads and ECS stainless braided lines. The calipers were painted black. I don't know how much spray paint costs, but I'd imagine that's like 10 bucks. The rotors were 150, pads were 60, and the stainless lines from ECS were $65. That brings our total for the rear brake setup to $275. Now my front brake setup is quite a bit more expensive than the rear, but I do have the Porsche Macan calipers, which are $921 on Eurotuning, along with Zimmermann 345mm by 30 rotors. Those are $280 on ECS Tuning. Z26 power stop pads again in the front as well. Those are $60 on Amazon. And then Technofit stainless lines, which I could only find one listing on Google really, and they were $120. But if I were to go back and do this again, I would probably get the Neo Speed lines because they're like 90 bucks or 100 bucks. I will say too, I bought this whole kit minus the rotors used on Marketplace. Well, used but new for $850. So I was able to save a little bit of money there and not spend too much. But if you were to buy the kit new, it'd run you $1,381. Again, a lot of these parts that I have on here are more expensive now than they were when I was building the car, just due to tariffs and price increases and all that fun stuff. Now getting into the suspension, we are on ORT coilovers, which are $1,399. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a listing for these anymore, but I do remember that that is how much they costed with the camber adjustable top hats. And I will say I actually picked mine up on Marketplace for $400 and a pack of Coors Light, so I was able to save quite a bit on these coilovers, even though they do have some issues. But if you want to learn more about that, go check out my suspension video I uploaded a couple days ago, because we talk about suspension. I do also have a polyurethane ECS dog bone insert, and I'm gonna count this under suspension because it really does affect the suspension more than anything. And that is $75, but I did get it for free because technically it was a Christmas present. Also in the rear, I do have an APR rear sway bar, and that is $275. And I'm not exactly sure how or why, but someone sent me a link like whenever I bought it, and I actually managed to get it for under 100 bucks. I think it was like $80 because it was like some sort of closeout deal or whatever. And so that's how I managed to get that part a lot cheaper than what it's currently listed at. Either way, the whole suspension setup would run you roughly $1,749. But like I mentioned, with the circumstances around this stuff, I really spent less than 500 bucks on my whole suspension setup. Obviously, this car has been getting built for a couple years now, and there are certain parts that I have swapped and taken off the car. One of those things, for example, is the H&R springs that I had on the car, and I paid $220 for those off of ECS on sale. And there are a couple other things too that we'll get into later, but just kind of mentioning that because I did, typically get parts, sell the stuff that I replaced. And so that did kind of help with recouping a little bit of the cost over time, even though I've still spent a lot of money, okay? It's also worth mentioning that we're gonna make another video on how much I've spent on maintenance on this car, because that's also quite a bit of money. Anyways, let's get into the fueling stuff on the car. Inside the fuel tank, we do have an EQT low pressure standard fuel pump. And then on the high pressure side, we do also have an Autotech high pressure fuel pump internal sitting in here. That is $400, and both of those together make for $1,200 in fueling mods, though I will say I did not pay quite that much. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of the parts on here were either discounted or sponsored, so that did help a lot with my kind of price around some of these things and being able to actually make this build happen, because if it didn't, I wouldn't be here today where this car is at. Another mod too that I don't really have a category for were these hood struts, and I believe these are $25 on Amazon. But I did actually have a gift card, and I only paid $8 for them after the gift card value, so we're going to go with $8 on the hood struts here. I want to talk next about kind of the exhaust setup. So we do have an ARM 4.5-inch catless downpipe, which will run you $550, and if you guys want one for your car, go use my affiliate link down below, because it helps your boy out with making builds happen, like my Mark 1 that's just kind of rotting back there, and hopefully we'll see the daylight soon. Going directly out of the downpipe, we do have a Vibrant 1142 resonator, which on Amazon is $140, but I did actually only spend $80 on this back whenever I bought it closer to 2 years ago. The resonator is attached to an MBRP catback, which I got on Marketplace from a 21 GLI for, I believe, $420, but they are $835 new. Meaning the total that it would cost to do this exact setup would be roughly $1,525. I did have a CTS catted downpipe before that, and I managed to pick that one up on Marketplace for, I believe, $200 is what I paid. I could be wrong, this was a long time ago, but it was around there. Now let's talk about the tuning. I have had quite a couple different tunes on this car and different setups. So the first one I actually had was the Integrated Engineering Stage 1 and Stage 2 tune along with their DSG tune. That cost me a little bit over $1,400, but we're not going to count that because I never ended up actually selling it or anything. Because the tunes are non-transferable, so it's just kind of sitting in my closet in case I ever need it. I ended up later switching to the Cobb access port with EQT and getting their Stage 2 tune and DSG tune, and I believe I got the tunes bundled for free, so that was cool. But obviously right now we are on a custom tune setup through them and have their Stage 3 DSG tune, which if you were to get that right now, that would run you about $850. Plus the price of the Cobb access port, which is $1,195. The Cobb access port is also just one of those things that went up in price over time compared to when I bought it. So that means the total for tuning is $1,895. Let's get into the meat and bones of this video because I think most of you guys are probably curious about the engine mods and how much those would cost to do. And this part kind of hurts. Now just to be clear, I did used to have an APR open PEX intake along with the ECS silicon intake hose and turbo inlet pipe. The APR intake is $350. And the turbo inlet and intake hose is about another $120. I ended up selling those for I think $180 or $200, but I did also buy the intake from a friend for $200, I believe. So just kind of running through this, we do have the EQT Vortex standard turbo, and that right now is $1,799. We are on stock sensors right now, but I'm waiting on a warranty, so I'm back on the stock ones with a stock tune file. But I do normally have the EQT 5-bar map and put sensors, which are $175. And if you don't know what those do, basically it allows you to run over 30 pounds of boost because the stock sensors can't read more than that. We do have a direct replacement intercooler, so obviously you can't see it because it's not a front mount, but that is from Doe 88 and that is $961 from Sweden, and that is a big boy intercooler meant for a lot of big power cars. It was a bit cheaper when I bought it. I'm not sure by exactly how much, but yeah, it is more expensive now just due to the world. We do also have the EQT discharge pipe kit, which you can see right here, but I got that used from a buddy for I believe $80 or $100. Can't remember exactly, but it is $275 new. And that's the variant, that's the 2.75 inch meant for the bigger intercoolers like the Doe 88. When I was doing the intercooler install, I also did break my radiator, so we went ahead and upgraded it to a KoyoRad radiator, which is $250, but I believe I actually got this one on sale for like $180 or something from Eurotuning. I can't exactly remember. We do also have the Mark 8 PCV, which is $353, but like I said, this is another thing that I got a lot cheaper. I think I actually paid like $250 or $260 for it, but that was a time before tariffs. Also, we got the EQT coil grounding kit that we also have that replaces the factory ground setup, is $95. And I've had this for quite some time now. The last big thing in here that you guys probably care about is the Blaze Atom V2 intake that we have here in carbon fiber, and this is $643. So all in all, that brings the engine modifications to $4,551. And the total cost for all the parts on the car right now, you would be spending roughly $16,464. The car is also paint corrected and ceramic coated, but I did not pay anything for this because my boys over at MG Auto Detailing hooked it up. And if you guys are in the Monroe area and need your car protected, paint corrected, or anything like that, make sure you go check them out. I'm not sure exactly how much that would cost, but I think a full correction would be in the range of like $1,500. So that was also a good chunk of change that we saved building this car. Obviously, this is a lot of money to spend on a car, especially a GLI that's pretty much, half of what I paid for this car new. The car is not done and we still do have more planned. I'm not exactly 100% sure what as of now, but trust me, there is going to be more stuff happening, and maybe one day we'll be able to make this into a Glaza if everything works out well. Overall, though, I am really happy with how the car is right now, and money aside, it's just, it's an awesome daily. I can make good power, spank Corvettes, and still get 40 miles per gallon on road trips, which is kind of unheard of and crazy to people that live in the V8 world, you know? And if you like the video, I'll give you some lemonade and possibly a chocolate chip cookie or two. I can't promise I'll get there anytime soon, but you know. Anyways, y'all boys be safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.